Welcome back to Top X Mystery Research Channel. Many cryptic books and works have baffled curious minds throughout history. Many such books are written in a language that no one knows, and many contain such knowledge that is beyond human imagination. Who are the authors of these books? Are they really human? Here are 12 of the most mystifying books ever existed. The Voynich Manuscript was first discovered in 1912. It has 250 pages written in a foreign language or in strange indecipherable codes. Experts are trying to interpret the texts of the manuscript and have proposed several theories, but all these theories have so far been rejected. The book was probably written in the 15th or 16th century and contains images of various animals, people, astrology, zodiac signs, herbs, and maps. German Egyptologist Rainer Hannig claimed to have figured out the code. He believed that the manuscript was written in a Semitic language such as Aramaic, Arabic, or Hebrew. The Voynich Manuscript remains a mystery. The Book of Sova, also known as Aldaraya, is a 16th century book on magic, astrology, spells and demonology. The author of the book is unknown, but the scholar John Dee first obtained it in the early 1580s when he served as an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. Dee spent his entire life trying to unravel the mysteries of the book. Most of the book was written in standard Latin. It contains several chapters describing spells, confusing magical formulas, protection spells, and the hierarchy of angels and demons. In the end, Dee was never able to decipher the last 36 pages of Sova's book, which contained 36 tables. The book disappeared after his death in 1609. Who wrote it? What do the 36 tables and their magic words mean? Nobody knows. Les Prophecies is a famous book full of prophecies written by Michael de Nostradamus in the 16th century. He was a Frenchman and a self-proclaimed seer who could predict future events and mentions them in his book. One of his best works was Les Prophéties, first published in 1555, which has never been published since his death. Nostradamus has amassed a huge following that credits him with predicting major historical events, such as the rise of Adolf Hitler, the Napoleonic conquests, the French Revolution, the death of Henry II, the Great Fire of London, 9/11 attacks, JFK, and other major disasters. Codex Seraphinia is a strange encyclopedia created by the Italian architect Luigi Serafini. He wrote the book in the late 1970s and it was originally published in 1981. The 300-page book itself is shrouded in mystery and is a guide to an alien world with descriptions and explanations of an imagined existence. The work in the book is surreal art where heads are cut off and turned into other objects. The book is full of pictures of plants, animals, maps, machines, people, food, games, buildings, and humanoids. It features hand-drawn carvings such as bleeding fruits, uprooted and stray trees, strange flowers, surreal variations of animals, strange games, and more. People believe there is a code hidden behind the unusual language written in the book. The Greek magical papyri date from the 2nd century BC, written mainly in ancient Greek. The material inside the papyri dates back to the 1st century BC to the 4th century AD. The book is a complete guide to magic, rituals, formulas, prophecies and hymns. The papyri consist of instructions on how to summon a demon, open doors to the underworld, protect yourself from wild animals, and the way to get a supernatural helper means a being from another world who will do your bidding. The most famous spells are divination spells where you can see the future. The manuscript became public in the 18th century through an antiquarian. The most famous text from the magical papyri is the Mitra's liturgy. The book is a Bible for followers of the occult. Codex Gigas, the world's largest surviving medieval illuminated manuscript, created by a monk from the Kingdom of Bohemia in the early 13th century. This 92 centimeters long book is known as the Devil's Bible because of its gigantic size and very unusual full-page portrait of Satan. The beauty of this book is that the entire text was completed overnight. According to legend, a monk broke his monastic vow and was condemned to be stoned alive. In exchange for his life, he promised to create a book glorifying the monastery. He began to write the text, but was sure that he would not be able to finish it, so he asked the devil for help. The devil helped the monk finish the gigantic book in one night, in exchange for the monk's soul. People say it would take 20 years of continuous writing to recreate the manuscript, not even the whole book, just the calligraphy part. The Prodigorum by Conrad Lycosthens is an odd book, even for this list. It is a collection of precepts and signs that contain the known history of Europe from Greek and Roman times to modern prophecies. Various creatures, both real and fantastical, were also presented and introduced. It contains detailed woodcuts of rhinoceroses, elephants, camels, and deer, as well as collections of sea monsters and strange human-like creatures without heads or faces on their chests. It was published at the same time Nostradamus wrote his predictions and was an obvious inspiration for his work. Carl Jung was a famous psychologist of the 20th century, the founder of the analytical psychology movement. He was a student of Freud, although he later distanced himself from Freudian theories. During that time, he began work on a book officially titled Liber Novus, but informally known among Jung's followers and heirs, and later published as the Red Book. The book originated from Jung's psychotic breakdown that began in 1913. Jung himself called this period a confrontation with his own unconscious. He worked on it for 16 years developing his psychological theories. The content of the book was compiled through Jung's own development technique, which he called active imagination, where he was visited by a male and female figure, whom he later called the prophet Elijah and Salome, who guided him through the process of delving into a collective unconscious. Jung's heirs kept the Red Book unused for almost 80 years, until 2001. It was finally published in 2009. The Codex Mendoza is an extraordinary document with a strange history. It was probably commissioned in 1616 by Viceroy Antonio de Mendoza, and sent to Spain for the king's review. On the way there, however, the fleet in which it traveled was attacked by French privateers, and the codex and other treasures on board were taken to France. It lay in obscurity for a few hundred years and then ended up in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. What makes this book extraordinary is that it was a book about the Aztecs written by Aztec scribes and informants. Some scholars call it the first autoethnography, a biography of an entire nation written by members of a group. The discovery of the Nag Hammadi codices sounds like the beginning of a Victorian adventure novel. In 1945, an Arab farmer named Muhammad Ali al-Zaman found a clay jar in the desert of Upper Egypt, containing 13 books that were bound in leather. He threw the books into his family's house, while he and his brother went outside to start a massacre against another man. Some of the books were accidentally burned in a fire, while the rest were later sold on the black market. Until they attracted the attention of the Egyptian authorities, who confiscated several books and placed them in the Coptic Museum of Cairo. The codices were later revealed as secret Christian sacred texts. The books were created more than 1,500 years ago, in the first centuries of Christianity. Some of them have never before been mentioned in any Christian literature, others were declared heretical and banned by the Church. They provide a counterpoint to accepted church literature and have been controversial since their discovery. Is it possible for a book to be as cursed as the Hope Diamond? If so, this book is one of them. This book is a work of art in itself. The cover is leather-bound, the front is decorated with jewel-encrusted peacocks, and is emblazoned with gold leaf. Its designer, Francis Sangorsky, spent months designing it and 2 years to complete its creation. It is a legendary book, both because of the high art of the book, and the tragedies that seem to follow it. Sangorsky's original copy sank with the Titanic. Francis Sangorsky drowned 6 weeks after the ship carrying the book crashed into the Atlantic Ocean before he could recreate it. Sangorsky's partner Stanley Bray spent 6 years creating another copy of the book based on Sangorsky's original drawings. Unfortunately, the book was later destroyed in the London Blitz. It took Bray another 40 years to complete the next copy, which was donated to the British Library after his death. Henry Darger was a typical urban recluse. He worked as a janitor, lived in a small apartment in Chicago for almost 40 years, never married, and kept to himself. After his death in 1973, however, his former landlords discovered that Darger was a typical recluse with an atypical habit. He had been writing and illustrating the novel for years, and the work was more than 15,000 pages long at the time of his death. Awkwardly titled The Story of the Vivian Girls, known as The Realms of the Unreal. This epic fantasy about the Glandaco-Angelinian war storm caused by the child slave rebellion was lavishly illustrated by accompanying watercolors. Flying girls fly over strange pastel landscapes, chased by men with swords and bayonets. The book is rich and disturbing, a great example of outsider art. So, which book do you think is the most mystifying? Leave your answer in the comments below.